Listening. Damn. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Damn Podcast. I am Angie Machado and I'm really excited to be joined by Director of Athletics, Scott Barnes. Big day for us to have you on, and I appreciate you taking some time to talk with us. It's been not only a busy couple years, it's been a busy couple days. So Scott, welcome to the Damn Podcast. How are you?
Hey, thank you so much. Yes, all systems go, doing great. With all the challenges ahead, there's some real opportunity, and we're excited for that as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I first want to say it's been a crazy couple years. I, at one point in my young career, thought being an athletic director was the path I wanted to do. I learned very early that was not what I was cut out to do. So it's a tough job, regardless of all the other regardless of all the other stuff that you've had to deal with. Being an athletic director is a tough business. A lot of criticism, a lot of celebrations. But talk us through, I want to start with the Pac-12 rebuild that you've been so instrumental with. Talk us through the past 2 years of this and your involvement with what has transpired.
Yeah, Angie, you go back to, I'll never forget getting off of Trout Stream in northern Idaho with my wife, and my phone blowing up when I got to cell phone range, and it was Colorado was leaving the Pac-12, and then within weeks we had all the other issues that happened, and Washington State and Oregon State were left. And at that point, we didn't have a lot of help, so we were really de facto commissioners. Pat Chun at the time, AD at Washington State, myself, and at that point we had no media deal, we had no conference, we had no schedule. We had to kind of jump in and we had two roles, right? We were commissioners and we were athletic directors at the same time, and we put that together. We had the 1 year Mountain West deal, which helped us navigate some, and then we went independent the next year in football. But all along, there's 17 sports you're thinking about and where you place them, and the WCC was a great connection for us. For most of our sports, it's just been a wonderful opportunity. I can't thank Stu enough, commissioner of the WCC, for his help in that process. In the meantime, we are looking at the long-term vision of what the Pac-12 could be, and really excited about what we have now in terms of the brands, the quality of the institutions, really the like-mindedness and wanting to grow. To be that fifth conference, knocking on the door of the Big 12, knocking on the door of the ACC, with what we're doing in competition, in viewership, and in all that we're doing. And metrics play that out. Now it's time to perform again. We've got to be ready to, when we launch next year, to be as strong as we can be moving forward. But lots of logistics in that process. Never want to do it again. Million years, but really happy with the outcome and where we sit now and the trajectory that we have going forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the next 4 to 5 years is going to be so crucial for Oregon State, especially in the reshaping and putting themselves in the best possible position for the next round. I mean, we know realignment is not done. We know it's going to evolve. But you also not only had to deal with all of this, you had to deal with it with a brand new president and President Murthy, who came in, who had never been a university president. So talk to me a little bit about her. How involved has she been? Is she bought into having a successful athletic program, or is she just okay with having an athletic program? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, she jumped in and hadn't been exposed really to athletics much, but just such a smart person. What a great partner and leader she has been through the process. Jumped right in, quick study, and took command right away. So instrumental in all of that. Currently, she serves as the chair of the new Pac-12.
Okay.
So each year, a president is selected as chair of the board, and she is running that as well. And so couldn't ask for a better partner and a leader. And to answer your question, Angie, when you think about presidents and how all in they are, you can have a president who's way too all in to the point of almost wanting to sort of make decisions and be the athletic director. I've seen colleagues struggle with that, or you can have a president that sits on the sideline and really doesn't understand what athletics can do to drive the mission of a university.
Hmm.
Kathy is just that right person. She gives me full autonomy, yet she's engaged. She's ready and willing to help wherever, and she's leading when she needs to in this space. So couldn't ask for a better partner there in
Okay.
how we're moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's been something, I was a student at Oregon State back in the 90s. I go back 30, 40, and I know there's Beaver fans out there that go back even further. And that hasn't been always the case. I go back to, the last university president that I really felt took athletics seriously and really saw what it could do for the university as a whole was Paul Risser. Very had the foresight. So, I mean, we've seen it in the past where they're slow to help approve hires. They're slow to admit student athletes. I mean, are you seeing the support on that side of the tracks?
Yeah, without question. I mean, we're in this together, and from what our funding model looks like, we've got a shift. We've got an incredible drop in conference revenues, and how we mitigate that. The helping and the plan there to just autonomy and trust that we're doing the right things here, and checking in. We talk all the time. So we're very close in terms of our communication as well.
That's great. I mean, like I said, it's you always have the university president that's rah to the fans, but it's good to hear kind of the truth there. You bring up a good point, because this was the next thing on my list is the budget. You spoke the past couple of years that we're going to fund Oregon State athletics at a P4 level, P5 level. But how much of a hit has the budget taken from those old Pac-12 days now that you're really kind of settling in? You have the CBS sports deal, you're working on the rest of the media rights, but how much is that budget changing in the next year, next two, next three?
Yeah, it's significant, and we had crafted what I called a four-legged stool funding model to help us through as soon as the Pac-12 blew apart. It included institutional support, and we got additional institutional support. It included legislative strategy, and we went after 10 million a year, and we got 10 million one time. So that's we've got to revisit that for sure. It included the Pac-12 assets that we had through the judicial process and whatnot, and those will dissipate, and then it included what we could do here in mitigating strategically through budget cuts and generating new revenue. So those four legs of the stool prop us up, but we're really fighting because the Pac-12 distributions go from $43 million a year down to whatever it'll be. We'll know more here in October, November, but it'll be drastically reduced. And how we fill that gap, we're working on every day.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's it could be, 40, 30 million. I mean, it could be a $30 million difference potentially, correct?
Yeah, not likely 30, but it certainly could be close to that. And so that's why, as we think about the future, revisiting a legislative strategy, and other prospects, as well as just continuing. We commissioned a Rev Gen committee made up some of my board of advisors, folks that have turned businesses around, and have been a great support to go with my external crew to look at everything we do from a business operations perspective and from a revenue generation perspective to see where we might add value and add dollars. And we've got some things in the hopper that'll work, already working for us, but we need much more. So it's a priority every single day for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been, right? I think Oregon State, I don't think there's been a time that I can remember that Oregon State hasn't, needed some more money. what, I look at fiscal year 24, so a little different. Oregon State spent probably more closer to a P5 level, 112 million. Washington State was at 78 million from our notes. But then looking at our new conference peers, now we have to maybe shift from thinking of spending at a P4 level to more of the G6 level. That mean right there with Boise and Fresno and some of those schools is roughly 55 million. So there's the difference. Does that mean staff changes? Does that mean reductions? What does that look like? And there's been some question as well about your salary and how that isn't equal in the grand scheme of the new conference peers.
So let me talk about sort of some of the benchmarking we're doing, because one of the in everything we do, the challenges we have to look for the opportunity. And if you've never read the book, The Obstacle is the Way, read that book, because it really what it talks about is taking what your challenge and your obstacle is and turning it around and saying, all right, within that, where do you find opportunity? And one of the things that we'll find and have found and are working towards is, for the first time in our history, all of the challenges aside, we will be in the first quartile of budgets in our conference, not the bottom quartile. And so we have strategic cuts to make across the board, and we won't do it as a percentage basis. We'll do it strategically in every area. And so that coupled with the Rev Gen initiatives, state legislative strategy at some point again, we did that a few years ago, and timing, we've got to look at timing and all that, are all things that will help put our budget in place for the next several years, which the goal is to be the top quartile of this conference. Now, there are budgets that are 100 million. San Diego State is showing over $100 million budget. Remember, Rev Gen, when you throw Rev Gen in there, it changes, Rev Share, it changes that. We're about $100 million budget and then you can add Rev Share on top of that to the tune of about, 7.5 million this year. But we're seeing, San Diego State, they've built in some stadium costs that inflate their budget. We think the 85 million range is probably the
is where you'll be
all in. We're still sifting through that, and we still don't know what FY27 distributions will be. So we'll find that out. You asked another question. You asked about my salary, and we have other salaries as well that we've invested in. The one thing I'll tell you is that when all this fell apart, Angie, I didn't get on a plane and go take another job.
Yeah.
I stayed here in the fight because this is an important place to me, and I'm going to finish my career here, although I've had many opportunities to leave. And I did it because I want to see this thing through. What I'm paid is not a decision I make. It's a decision the president makes. And do I believe I'm worth it? You damn right I do. And then some, given what we've led our university and athletic department through. So that's all I'll say on that. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad I didn't get on that plane. I'm blessed to be here, and we're going to continue to fight till we get this right. And can't be more excited about the trajectory, given all the challenges. The future of the Pac-12 and Oregon State's place in that is bright.
I appreciate you answering that, because it's a tough question to ask, because we all want raises. We all feel that we are worth what we're, or then some. But the optics, I think, from some Beaver fans is tough. But I appreciate you answering that, because you're right. I mean, we saw Washington State go through that. Their athletic director, president, everybody bolted. So it's a tough time right now. Let's switch gears, because I want to talk football, because somehow between the time of us scheduling this and happening, a lot's happened now in the past 48 hours. Trent Bray, again, just like you, was brought in at a very difficult time. I've known Trent a long time, and his obvious love of Oregon State was apparent for stepping into something that maybe wasn't the top of his comfort zone initially. How did you come across that I look at the schedule. It was tough. You look at the first 7 teams they played had a combined record of 32-10, with 2 of those inside the top 10. Do you think it was fair and the right time to fire Bray after 19 games total, and not ask for him to make additional staff changes? Or did you think this was the time it had to happen to give you time to look for the next step?
Yeah, that's a really fair question. And, let me start by saying I think we're not the business of college football in particular. We're an impatient group, right? The marketplace is super impatient, and it's the tough part about the business. Everybody wants change immediately, and so I was pretty deliberate and methodical and just looking at it. And what happens is to your point, the front end of the schedule was one of the toughest in America. And so as you think about what you're looking for in improvement on the field and as well in leadership, and you had some ebb and flow, and it's really hard to, if you're making adjustments, it's hard to really glean the success of those adjustments when you're at number 5 Oregon or you're at Texas Tech. You just, but then you saw some glimpses of improvement, and then you'd say you saw some steps back. And as I thought about that, I also thought about, I've hired 5 head coaches at Division I level, probably one of the only sitting ADs to do that at every level of Division I, and successful every single time. All went to Power 5 jobs, except this one, and they were all coordinators. And the one thing that, if there's something, and I want to start by saying Trent was first class. He gave it everything he had, and our meeting Sunday morning to the meeting we had with the team, he was first class. He told them he loved them. He cares about this place. He told them they need to stay together and go win a Pac-12 championship next year. But as I thought about the timing, to answer your question, and I thought about what I've seen and observed in the coaches I've hired who were coordinators but embraced the difficulty of the entire enterprise, embraced tough decisions, ran towards those decisions, and were able to look at the whole picture as opposed to just the defensive side of the ball or the linebackers. And I just wasn't seeing that growth there. And that, between that and the lack of improvement in the program, and after the Wake Forest game, it just felt like it was at a place for no return in terms of getting it to where we wanted it. So it does give us ample time, ample runway to do what we need to do in the process. So not an easy decision. There's never a right time. But I think given the body of work, my observations, continued meetings constantly with Trent to get a feel of things, I felt like obviously I did that was the right time.
Yeah, it is one of those, and I stated this in one of my columns earlier in the season, that every head coach I've ever spoken with, and you too, the worst part of being a head coach is that whole CEO thing, the personnel stuff. And I wanted to see that from Trent. I wanted to see what did he have the chops to be the CEO and make the tough decisions. And so that's a tough one. Do you feel, he did bring in 2 first-time coordinators as a first-time head coach, bringing in 2 first-time coordinators. Yeah. Do you think back to maybe you could have been a little more involved in there, or as an AD, do you like to stay back and like, this is their job? It's a fine line you walk of being
another
shoulder
yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Oh no, you're good. I mean, do you wish you would have done anything different there, or it is a fine line you walk?
Yeah, let me just share. It's a really, really important question, and let me just share my philosophy with you as it relates to that. My philosophy has always been, in I guess 35 years in this business, that I'm going to hire the right leader and empower that leader to make decisions, and they live with those decisions. And so never before have I even had to mandate that a coach make a decision in the middle of a season, as an example, or tell a coach who he should or shouldn't hire. Now, you paint it with a broad brush, and you talk about, look, we need to make sure you have the right experience around you, and we coach the coaches, and I coach the coaches in that regard. But ultimately, it's their decision and how they're comfortable. And I think sometimes coaches get
Yeah, and like I said, it's not an enviable position for you, because I've talked to a lot of coaches in other places that feel that the AD is stepping too much on their decisions. So that is a tough one. So now looking forward, how important is it to build momentum going into the next 4 or 5 years, as we kind of indicate? I mean, the next couple of years with potential realignment, and like you said, now I think we can look at not spending at the bottom of a P4 level. Our peers now are Fresno, Boise, and being at the top of that level. How important is it now to really position Oregon State at the top of that division?
Yeah, and you ask about momentum, and so when you think about this new Pac-12, and you think about the other group of 5 conferences, most years the champion of the Pac-12 will have a CFP spot. They just will, and so that's our standard is how do we. It's ironic too, right? How do we get there? And we'll talk about the momentum, but it's also we're in a place we've never been in that regard. I mean, we've never been closer to getting a CFP spot in our history. So
and we go from being the bottom dog kind of to the top dog.
And in doing so, you have a conference that will get a bid in most years, and so we're in a good spot. Momentum is critical. Timing wise, it's all been public. You look at the timing things, and all the media rights, much of them in college football will be up in the 30 area, around 30. And so if you think about 2030, and you think about the process in terms of if there's any more movement, we all think there will be. You start talking about that in 28, right? And you start to navigate and strategize and whatnot. So to answer your question, when we're in that, by 28, 27, we need to be running full steam ahead, right? We need to be, that momentum that you mentioned needs to be full bore, all in, all on. And so we've got a hitch in our giddy up here with this change, but also an opportunity to get it back on track. Continue to make the needed investments and be where we need to be in the next few years.
How do you do that? Speaking of investments, because you have a very successful baseball program that Beaver fans love. You have a successful women's basketball program. You have a men's basketball program that is trying to get there. Those are kind of the ones that you want to break even, make some money. Football is the engine though that drives the entire bus. What does investment in football look like? What does this new coaching salary pool look like? I mean, can you spend could you attract a coach at like the $5-6 million level, or is that going to be dialed back a little bit with the budget constraints?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we got revenue share to talk about. So, there's a lot.
So I don't even know where to start now.
Let's talk football investment. Let's talk that.
Football investment. So, I think, so again, as you benchmark against the new Pac-12, that's where we're going to be. And my intent in the challenges that we have, and we talked about the cliff in 27 and the revenue decline in conference distribution. Still, we've got to find a way to be in that first quartile. And absolutely in rev share, we've got to be there. In salary pool, we want to be there, and in coach's salary. Now, the average Pac-12, new Pac-12 salary is much, much lower. The high is 2.2 million.
Yes.
The high, and we're right below that. And depending on the candidate and where they come from, we can move things around. Salary pool, we'll want our goal is to be at the top in assistant salary pool, but at the new Pac-12 level. So things will come down there. And My expectation is, as we think about those things, making sure that that revenue share bucket, that rev share bucket is where we want it in this process. So that means moving some of these things around. We'll be reducing. We have to in everything we do. But again, that first quartile. How do you stay in the first quartile? And how do you, as you're reducing and strategizing, move some of those dollars to rev share, so we're stronger there as we're fundraising for that as well.
Okay, so that, and like we talked about the short, patience that people have, but I do think with the transfer portal, what we're seeing is things can also get flipped around a lot faster than a slow
Yes.
turnaround. So I mean,
Yes.
we've seen that with Indiana is the prime example with that.
Sure is. Yeah.
So let's talk. There's been some optic issues the past couple of weeks that you probably didn't need to deal with. I mean, there's the Blueprint Sports, which you've taught. We've had Brent Blaylock on to talk about that. We had Blaylock also have some comments that were reported about legends being forgotten. That nobody's going to remember Gary Payton, which that riled Beaver fans up. But I want to go back because the way I understood it, the Blueprint Sports thing kind of got blown up. That they are strictly NIL, like they are handling kind of almost like a modeling agency or a talent agency would be connecting people. The big money right now that Beaver fans can help would be the scholarships and rev share. Is that kind of the case?
Yeah.
Or
So
fan support.
Yeah, let me. Thanks for bringing it up again. And I won't get it. We don't need to get into all the
I don't want to. Yeah,
but I do want to. I think it's important for our fans to understand conceptually sort of what we're doing here. So we have Damnation Collective.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of left. We could have sunsetted it like a lot of folks did, or move it forward. So the owner sold it to Blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
This is all additive. And so you've heard some numbers out there. I think even there's like, okay, $5 million or this and that's coming through it. So think about it this way: with the settlement hearing, now all major gifts don't go through Damnation. They did in the last couple of years, and they weren't tax deductible, but now they are. So that gives us even better. So if you just lift the veil on this, all the major gifts will now come through the foundation, tax deductible, and go to rev share, which could be scholarships, Alston, other forms of giving money directly to student athletes. So when you take that out, what you had was a sort of a membership organization that did maybe 10 grand a month and in membership. What we have now is 3 full-time boots on the ground. We have a chance to build that membership up and add other events that drive revenue. So this is all additive. And at the end of the day, it's going to work or it's not, but it's additive. It gives us a chance to move the needle further, and we think it will, and we hope it will. So that's maybe some clarity on how.
Because I think everybody. And I'm sure you guys are still a little trying to figure it all out. And I think there's some. I think a lot of athletic departments still haven't figured it out, but they just have enough money coming in they can just spend and whatever.
Yeah.
But the way I understand it, and this is how I've tried to explain it, is NIL now has gone from, and I know you can't say this, but in essence, the past couple of years, NIL was pay to play. It was here's $1 million if you come to school here and sign some posters and do a car ad. Now it is under the House settlement. It actually has guardrails in that it has to be legitimate business purpose, paid, legitimate going rate kind of thing for name, image, likeness. I mean, how name, image, and likeness was supposed to be set up.
Yes.
Rev share now, which could max out at like what, 20.5 million.
That's right, with a 4% escalator. Yeah.
Okay, and you guys are still offering them full scholarships as well. Is that hasn't gone away? Okay, so really, as a fan, if you're a fan, Oregon State fan watching this, and you want to give to Oregon State, you go right back to our Beaver Nation. You want to give whether it's rev share or scholarships, correct?
Yeah, we call it student athlete benefits, and it can come through the Athletic Excellence Fund. It can come through the Fearless Fund. It can come through there's another fund. There's three or four funds that you can give that to. It comes into us, and we fund our rev share with that. And what I do is I want our coaches to have some dollars that they can either put it to more scholarships because the settlement gives us more scholarships, or they can put it to Alston, or they can fund it different ways. So
kind of
There's
a
so
discretionary fund for them.
that's that. The other thing I want to say about your excellent point earlier about breaking down the House settlement and the dollars, the free for all that we saw the last couple of years. It'll never be worse than it was because every deal that was done this past year, there's a lot of front loading. What there was no accountability into the new system. The new system didn't start till July 1. So let me give you an example of the marketplace. If you were to take this litmus test that we talk about, which is we call it range of compensation or fair market value and legitimate NIL activity. In this past year, with the factors we use for that system, 70% of every deal would have been rejected. 70% of those. So now you've got a tamping down in the marketplace. It's not perfect. You've got a big stick in terms of enforcement. I sat on the enforcement committee and on the implementation committee, so we've done a lot of work in that regard. I feel a lot better. It's not NCAA driven. This is a organization that'll be built eventually with 20 individuals led by the former enforcement director of Major League Baseball. We've got a big stick. We've got swift penalties. In fact, we've got subpoena power in the arbitration process. So we've got things that the NCAA never had to make sure, and again, won't be perfect, but it'll be another layer of guardrails and enforcement that we've never had. And 45 days to get to the bottom of this, not a year and a half. Right.
When the kids are already graduated or done. And
So I feel good about that. And then a federal bill, if we get a federal bill and create standards across America, codify the settlement, add some antitrust protection, create not create, but define that student athletes are in fact students, not employees, and a few other things in the federal bill, then we've got ourselves at least a chance to regulate this.
Yeah, because it's been Wild West, like
worse
nuts. Yeah, I mean crazy. No, I think that's so important, and I've been beating this drum trying to get fans who are super angry about Blueprint. You can talk whatever. We won't even go into whether that was a good deal, bad deal, whatever. Bottom line, give to Damnation or our Beaver Nation. Take your tax write-off and support the student athletes that way. That's, I mean, end of the day, that's, if you're wondering what to do, that's what you need to do. Okay, I know we need to get you out the door here. And there's so much. We could talk probably for a day on all this stuff, Scott. I appreciate it so much. But one thing I've thought, and I've heard you say that you don't see a GM in football needed. But do you see a point where Oregon State football, like I said, everything revolves around football. So I'm looking at football in this. Do you see Oregon State? Oregon State is one of these programs that I've seen following recruiting for 20 years. They liked it. Their strength is going after developmental players who they can build up, recruit, build up. I mean, I look at Trent Walker. I mean, I could go on forever. Trent Walker, though. Let's say Trent Walker comes in as a walk-on. You build him up. You get him to a point, and then all of a sudden he's being poached by other schools offering him a lot of money. Do you see a point where a GM could come in and help with roster management, one, and two, that maybe deals, these young men are signed to deals, maybe 2-3 year deals with buyout clauses, should someone come poach them 2 to 3 years down the road?
Yeah, let me talk about the GM position first, because it's a bit of a misnomer. There are a handful of programs in the country who have a traditional GM. Stanford would be one, where the football coach actually reports to the GM.
Yeah.
Now that's not widespread, and I think it's going to start going south, and I'll tell you why. Because what we have as this evolution occurs and we learn more, we understand that we know slot points now. We know what price. We have all the data that tells us, look, this kid should be in this range right here. And as we've gone through these cycles, what we're learning is we're not really negotiating hardly anything. Now it's slotted. So what you need is somebody to connect the agent with the coach and the student athlete, and then perfunctory just get the job done, just get the rev share agreement done. So I want to point this out, that I've decided not to move forward in replacing that position now, because it's not the most effective and efficient way to do in cycle. We're in cycle, so we're going to wait and we're going to evaluate this. We have great bandwidth inside, some real talent in being able to just grab this and take it. And then what we'll do is we'll get through this cycle and we'll look up in the spring and we'll learn even more and we'll look at the marketplace and we'll make a decision on how we're going to invest in this position. But I say no GM because it's a misnomer. A traditional NFL GM,
Yeah.
maybe at the highest level you do that and you're doing some negotiating, but I want our fans to know there's hardly any negotiating going on here.
Okay.
And we have so much more data to
So
be
this is more like an MLB.
better at making the investments, because I think
Okay.
we've made, we could do better. We do better on what we're paying, and we have that data to help make that indication. And so we're going to keep evaluating. We love the bandwidth we have to get it done now, given the circumstances, and we'll reevaluate in the spring. And it'll whatever it is, it probably won't be Nate called a GM, but it'll be a position, and we want to get the most out of it. How do we deliver the most to our student athletes?
Exactly.
And that's what it'll be predicated on.
Okay. Do you see a chance for Organizate to maybe create a couple, buyout clauses and such, so to help protect them? So if Oregon or another school decides to come in and take Trent Walker, they have to pay a buyout clause.
Yeah,
I mean, that happening in college athletics.
Yeah, I think we've got to get our legal team together to look at all that. You could go as far as looking at, if you start to talk about student athletes as employees, there's a whole other set of ramifications around that. But as it relates to, this is one-sided right now. And that's why you're asking the question. And so how do we protect ourselves from that? If we have a coach or an athletic director that leaves, there's a buyout. So more study needs to be had on the ramifications of that. And the challenge with it is if you have that and the other school you're recruiting against doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot there.
Together. The market has to move together, and so that's why a federal bill is helpful, because you can't just be on an island in this marketplace and end up shooting yourselves in the foot. So you gotta bring this along together.
Great. I think that, like I said, I could ask a ton more questions, but I want to get you out the door because you've taken a ton of time. I really appreciate you taking the time for Beaver Nation to hear some tough questions and some really strong answers. So thank you, Scott. And I'm excited too, because CBS Sports is a partner of the new Pac-12. That is our parent company. So we'll be seeing a lot more from that side of things as well. So I'm excited for the future for you guys. And thank you all for joining the DAM podcast. We'll be back next time for another episode.